Okay, let's take a listen to how the drums are sounding straight on the way in with just a little bit of processing on the preamps. I've got all the plugins and bus compressors turned off and muted, so let's just hear what they sound like coming straight in. Sounds pretty good. So some of the plugins that I have on here, like I'm pretty sure I mentioned this already, but a lot of these are presets that I've had from my previous rooms, things like that. But coming into this new space, obviously there's a bit of a transition, understanding what worked in the previous room versus what works in this room. And I'm fortunate to have a larger space with really tall ceilings. So with that, I don't have to do a lot of stuff on the back end to make it sound bigger or fuller. I'm already getting that because the room is accommodating that, if that makes sense. So some of the plugins that I do like to use from these are mostly gates. This plugin called Silencer is like a game changer. This is probably one of the easiest noise gates that I've ever had to work with. It's really user-friendly. It's designed for drums, which is pretty cool. So there's basically algorithms, as I understand it, for each different drum type and frequency type that it'll analyze and cut the sound in between each hit so you're not getting a ton of bleed. This is great for toms. If you're in a pinch, you can use a plugin like this. Normally, I'll go in and cut the region so it's just the hit transient and kind of put a fade on it. It's a little tedious, but in my opinion, it's kind of like a foolproof way of making sure there's no extra bleed from tom mics in your final product. So I'm going to use that on my snare bus, my tom bus, and my kick bus. Now, just to kind of go back and explain why I'm having buses for everything. This is, again, more of the top-down thing. So when you have multiple mics on one single instrument, I mean like 2 mics on a kick, 2 mics on a snare, 3 tom channels, you can pare those down in Logic to one stereo send that will go out to your mix bus. So you're not overloading that mix bus with a ton of extra information, if that makes sense. So this is just kind of my approach to it. It's worked for me in the past, and that's just kind of how I like to do it. Like, again, with the overheads, I've got 3, like the stereo pair, and then the mono position. It seems to make sense and work for me. So with that, we're just killing a little bit of noise in between each of the hits on the kick and snare and toms, which again is going to really help kind of get rid of the extra mud and make your toms a little bit more punchy. Beyond that, I'm not really using much of this stuff. I've got this really great plugin from UA called Oceanway, which does like room emulation. And this was like my secret weapon in my old space because I could really amp up the size of, or I guess how big the room sounded. Because for those of you who don't know, my previous room was in my basement at my house in Ohio, and it was like an unfinished utility space. So concrete floors, insulation on the walls, exposed ceilings. So it was quite the chore to try to figure out how to make drums recorded in a basement not sound like drums that were recorded in a basement. So thankfully, I have this as kind of like a little extra oomph if I need it. But more often than not, I don't. I'm just getting plenty of ambience and reflection in this space. And maybe you can see in some of the B-roll, I don't have a ton of treatment in here. It's just some mostly decorative stuff along the runner walls here. And then I've got some treatment behind my studio monitors here to kind of help with some of those reflections. So perhaps down the road, I might pursue some other treatment options. But for right now, I'm really enjoying all of the reflections and how big it sounds in here. So to speak to that, let's just listen to the rooms. Which already is such a killer starting point. So honestly, the only things that I'm going to do from here are turn on my bus compressors, and that's pretty much the end product for me. I don't like to overcomplicate things if I don't have to. and keeping things as simple as possible is the name of the game. So you can turn around things as quickly as possible. And again, coming from an engineer's perspective, my job is just to make things sound good at the source and send it off to the mix engineer and get those things polished as best as they can get them done.